So welcome to Talks with Dick and Russ. No, that's not it. We're not Dick and Russ. Uh, what are we gonna call it? Welcome to the Dick and Russ podcast. He's Dictionary. I'm Thesaurus. And we're pretty much just gonna be here talking about different topics, random topics, either things that our friends are passionate about, that we're passionate about, or things that the viewers and followers like you guys bring up to us.
Yeah, we're going for mainly life experience, like we're both gonna come up with a million different things to talk about because I study philosophy and write a ton about philosophy and religion, spirituality. So yeah, I can talk about topics for days. I have way more content than I will ever use. And we're pretty much just going to have people on every now and again to talk about what they're passionate about and ask them questions, But
So what's your intention for sharing this knowledge with everyone?
Yeah, so my intention is pretty much I want people to relate, I want people to hear other people talking about things that they're thinking about, that they're dealing with, and gain some insight on that. I feel like so many people don't touch on subjects that is going through everyone's lives, everyone's minds enough. Certain things, like insecurity and there's a million different things, I can't even start to name them all, but yeah, having each individual person offer their own expertise. I have a friend who's really into Enneagrams, which is personality traits and
right.
how it kind of goes with most people.
Right.
And then
Myers-Briggs, 5 love languages, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and then I got friends who are homosexuals who grew up in the church, and that kind of stuff, and what it's like to slowly transition out of Christianity to be a Christian and to not like the church, to study Buddhism. There's a million different things that we can talk about.
Which we also have our fair share of experiences with the church and leaving and going through being atheist and so an agnostic and spiritual agnostic and so on and so forth. There's so many terms, right, for all the different philosophies that you can have within religion and just spirituality. So but very cool. What's your more or less your expertise on these subjects? Obviously we're talking to the people about life experiences, right? But what's your expertise? What have you studied in school? What have you, any certification, stuff like that? That way that people can know where we're coming from.
Yeah, so I do not have any expertise on any of this. I have studied just all this stuff on my own and, listen to debates, talk to people about it on my own, get different perspectives, write forever and think about different approaches to everything. So I studied sociology at Biola University, which is a Christian university. The Bible Institute of Los Angeles.
Oh god, number one worst party school in the United States.
Oh dear God, don't go there.
Just letting you guys know.
Yeah. So yeah, I studied sociology, but honestly, I've studied philosophy more than I have sociology, on my own time and my own writings. And I would say it's philosophy, spirituality, religion. Those are the three that are kind of the things that I've studied the most. And when it comes to expertise, my perspective is everyone has a valuable perspective about the things that they're passionate about, whether or not it's just kind of a repackaging of things they've heard or their own personal experiences. I think every single person has something valuable to bring to the table. If every person could write a book, there'd be something valuable in that book that is said in a certain way or conveyed in a certain way that will speak to someone in a different and more insightful way than maybe a professional would, you know?
And that's actually one of the things that I'm glad you said that, because that kind of goes back to our last point, which is intention, right? The main intention of this podcast is to basically get those ideas that people have and relate it to everybody else through this podcast, right? So a lot of times, I know this happens to Sammy quite a bit and to me as well, where you have this great idea, this great like concept of something, and you just don't know how to explain it. Yeah. Or sometimes perspectives from two different people are not alike. So it's, you're saying things in one way that the other person's just not receiving, right?
Right.
And so our whole intention for this podcast is to bridge that gap of, hey, this is really what they're trying to say in your terms, so that you can kind of like gain their experience as well, instead of disregarding it. Because if you really look closely, we are a lot more alike with everyone than we are different. We just tend to focus a lot on these differences with other people for whatever the case may be, right? Sometimes we just don't like the certain vibe of a person. Sometimes we want to be our own person, be unique. And I think once we focus about, and all that's fine, but once we focus on the similarities between us as humans, us as people, as beings that have emotions and you know, are capable of extensive philosophies and thought, like we learn to appreciate each other a lot more, and you know, have conversations that are meaningful versus just random, boring, small talk.
Yeah, dude, isn't the fucking spice of life just like getting out of your goddamn head, you know? Like, we know our own perspective, you know? And, like, it's funny how most people just like to talk about themselves. But, yeah, even, like, hearing someone talk... I literally heard this guy give basically a sermon for Christianity at a memorial I just went to. And this guy was just straight up trying to give the good news. And I'm like, oh, I've heard this a million times. And I almost checked out. And then I'm like, you know what? Like, everyone's got a great perspective. I just want to hear him out. And he said something that kind of struck me. And I've been listening to a million debates on Christianity and writing all day about it. And I still got something from listening to someone do something that if I were just too prideful to listen, I wouldn't have gotten it, you know?
Yeah.
And... yeah, that's a topic I think we're going to be talking a lot about, which is like kind of valuing each person's individual experience and perspective.
Right.
Because like, yeah, going back to that, I think also that's a huge struggle in the United States on the whole right now, is like we're forming these conclusions about everything. We have an opinion on everything, but that's not really the problem. The problem is once we get to that point, we have a hard time entertaining other people's perspectives and like listening to them.
Right.
And, you know, like allowing a genuine conversation to happen instead of like, no, this is the truth. You have to convert to this,
right.
Or there's something wrong with you. Instead of like, let me understand what the fuck you're saying before I try to shove my opinion down your throat.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely lacking.
Yeah, it's definitely like just wanting to be right. I feel like, you know, we stop focusing so much on wanting to be right, which I'll be the first to admit, that's always my problem, is that I you know, usually in debates and things like that, like I have to remind myself consistently and constantly to stop just trying to be right. I think we've noticed that the people who sometimes are the most ignorant are the ones that think they're right.
The most confidence,
right? As ironic as it sounds, like the one that always thinks they're right kind of stays in the same place. They don't learn.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's one thing that's helped me a lot to really say, hey, just don't necessarily think you're wrong all the time, but you know, just have an open mind to what someone has to say. Even if you think that it might be wrong, try to see what. And this is one thing that Patrick Shin, the director at Biola for the Collegium, he would always say is, don't focus so much on the thing. The thing is the people talking about whatever they're talking about. Focus on the thing behind the thing. Which means, what is this person trying to say?
Yeah.
Right? If someone says maybe like, oh, I haven't gone out in a long time. I've basically just been like sleeping a lot and staying at home. that usually doesn't mean that they're a boring person.
Mm.
That probably means they're going through something, and that's why they haven't been going out. That's why they've been sleeping excessively, right? You gotta, if you take the time to kind of like think about those things, it's gonna help you a lot more to relate to other people, right? And so instead of trying to be right, why not say, okay, well, what's really going on, right? It's like try to get deeper with people and not just, okay, well, they're just, all right, they're only going out, they're a boring person.
That's great. I love that. That kind of leads to the, I guess this is one of my biggest intentions actually, is like trying to promote like openness and, you know, like not clinging to things, like clinging to conclusions, clinging to your beliefs, to your identity and everything, right? I think openness, well, I'm writing a book right now on Christianity, and that's actually probably the thing I'm promoting most in that book. Like I'm not trying to say Christianity's wrong or right. I'm just trying to say there's a million different ways to look at all of these topics within Christianity. Yeah. And the only way you're going to come to any semblance of confidence and like understanding is by saying I don't know. Yeah. You know, if you admit I don't know, that's a possibility to know. If you say I know, that's the end. Mm-hmm. You close your mind off to entertaining new ideas, to listening to people, because you have it all. You've got all the knowledge. So that's the mindset I'm trying to discourage. The mindset that I've got it all figured out. I don't need to listen to other people, because then you might as well just die, honestly. Like, you literally are just closing yourself off to life, to new possibilities, to hearing someone's own like truth, you know. And yeah, when you get that openness, like not only are you going to relate to everyone around you better, but you're going to learn a lot more. Like, you're going to realize the things you hold on to so tightly there's probably things that you can gain some insight on, you know. Like, what you hold may be true, but it's never the full picture. That's a really key point. What you have might be true, but let's say you're a physicist, right? And you think you've got it all figured out with how to describe the universe. But then you hear a poet talk, and you're like, I was missing something there, wasn't I? You know? Like, yeah, you weren't wrong about the way the universe works, possibly. But it's missing the spirit that the poet gives, you know? It's the same thing with anything. With any science, the sciences all work together, you know? It's like, when a bunch of different perspectives come together to support each other, that's when things start really feeling like magical, you know? It's like the symphony working together, all of the notes, all of the music working together is what makes it so beautiful. Like, the violin standing alone is great, but if you have the whole fucking thing working in harmony, it's just straight up magic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. I remember there was a time where we talked about us being into philosophy, and I got really into it, and it came to a point where that I was basically calling myself agnostic. Yeah. But it was really like a nihilism.
Dude,
like
I know.
The feeling was gone. There was no faith, you know. There was no... like, my spirit was just down. It was very... Everything was logical. There was no feeling involved in anything I did in life. There was no purpose. There was no... and I mean, even to this day, I still feel that sometimes, where because I don't really call myself, you know, a Christian, a Buddhist, you know, I don't really have something to cling on, right? As like that truth. Yeah. Right?
It's like something higher than yourself.
Right. It's kind of hard to really feel that a lot of the time. So, you know, constantly have to remind myself of purpose. Of what that looks like for me individually, what that looks like for other people around me as well. And so, yeah, it's got to be a balance between logic and emotion.
Oh, right?
Yeah. The mindset that one has. Because life is not about just being right? Life is about enjoying it with the people that you love, enjoying it with yourself. And that's a big one. You know, getting to know yourself, getting to know what it is that you like, that you don't like, right? What are your own truths, right? apart from what anyone else might be thinking, what is true to you, and why, right? Always ask the question why for anything that you do. Even if it gets tedious sometimes, it's always good to ask why, because that'll help you kind of live your life with that balance of understanding, but also of love and cherishing the moments that you have, right? So, yeah, I totally agree with you that it's not just about focusing on one thing, it's about putting it together and then really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So. Well, let's move on to expertise. We're still kind of on that. I'm going to share a little bit about myself and kind of where my expertise comes in. I'm like Sammy, I don't really know much. And I'd rather say that because I want to learn more, and I want to learn with you guys here on the podcast. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I also went to Biola, graduated there with a major in Spanish, minor obviously in Bible studies, and so after that I taught at a school. So first through sixth graders, I taught Spanish, PE, and then did like after school activities. So that's why I say that. Oh well, that's also partially why the name is the Dick and Russ podcast, right? Dictionary and Thesaurus, because Sammy over here is basically like the dictionary. He loves doing research. He loves to really get the most information about everything that he does.
Too much.
To the point where it causes overthinking and all that good stuff. And then I'm more of the thesaurus, where I try to put things in simple terms. And a big part of why I've gone to practice on that is because I taught first through sixth graders, right? So when you have some of these concepts are easy to talk with other adults who also, kind of understand what you're talking about. But when you have to explain it to, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds in a way that's simple and that they can understand it, it gets a little trickier. So that's kind of like my goal, is to try to explain it in a very general way, and for Sammy to really just get all the juice, all the information on anything that we look into, right?
Yeah.
And try to give you guys the best possible explanation that we can together as a team. And so I worked as a teacher, and then after that I went off to Officer Candidate School with the Marine Corps, graduated from that, and then ended up coming home after graduating. I didn't actually commission, but I had the experience of a lifetime, and went through a lot of moments of hardship and of really having to surpass my thoughts and my emotions and all these other things. So definitely a lot to talk about there. And now I work just at UPS, and so really we're just, I also work as a coach for 12, 13-year-old boys. And so, but really the main point of this, right, podcast is just really let those ideas flow. Hopefully help you guys out as much as we can. Share experiences with you guys, and hopefully you guys share experiences with us, right? And so we'll be featuring people in our podcast as well, our friends, our neighbors, acquaintances, just anyone who's got something to say, who's passionate about a topic, who wants to share their experience. That's really what we're about. We're going to try to ask, the best questions possible. When we have features, we're not going to be here and just, talk the whole time and just kind of have them sitting. It's going to be their show to talk, and we'll just ask these simple questions, try to figure out the why, and then try to relate that to you guys in however we can. So, but yeah, that's kind of like where our expertise is at, what we're looking to do. And then we're just going to give you guys kind of like a sneak peek of some of the topics that we'll be talking about, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast for today. This initial one, we'll be working on video and sound and other things like that as we start setting it up, but just wanted to do a brief intro to what we're doing, why we're doing it, and kind of where we're coming from. So, Sammy, what are some of the topics that you got set up for us?
All right. So, we got the same ones I've already mentioned. So pretty much anything spirituality related, yoga, meditation, breathing, afterlife, like what an actual spirit is, who God is, what is this higher power, how we're united, how we're connected, And then religion, you know, the main religions I've studied are Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism. But like religions often share a lot of common traits. So I would love to talk about different religions as well. Yeah, like what success looks like in life. Like in the U.S. especially, I think we have a very like work till you die mentality, or like work for retirement mentality, and there's many different ways that I think our generation is definitely the one that's changing that narrative a little bit, and in some good ways and some bad ways, you know. But yeah, so those are some topics, you know. Relationships, obviously, there's endless things that we could talk about for relationships, like marriage, divorce, how we kind of compatibility, chemistry, how we relate to one another.
Well, perspective.
Yeah, perspective. Listening to people, actually caring for them, like what it means to actually care for someone. But yeah, like we're not really strict with the topics, you know. Like we'll talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I love that shit. Freaking, we play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh! You know? Our games, man. That's like 2.5 hours each. It's fantastic.
We play more Rocket League than any human should.
Yeah. Halo Infinite, how good is it? What are the things that we like, that we don't like? I mean, it just, the topics are endless. So it'll be a mix of like serious topics, right? Things, even things like trauma. We have, you know, that's such a big topic nowadays. And it's something that I think we should all be aware of, how to kind of like approach it, how to be, I guess, how to provide a safe space for someone who's had trauma, right? It's going to be from anything from that to abortion to, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, what video games look like, you know, growing up, the influence that they can have on people, you know, on kids. Like him and I, we bond over stuff like Halo Infinite, Rocket League, Discord. Like it's just a way for us to communicate as friends with our busy lives. And sometimes we don't have the time to go and hang out, and, you know, so I'll just be like, hey, you want to hop on? You know, we stay at home, and then we just talk to each other for like an hour and a half, and then we go off to work or whatever. So it kind of allows that space to just have that community, right? And so there's a lot of positives in all these things. So that's really what we want to talk about. And what, you got anything else for us as far as topics?
It's too long of a list, you know. Like there's a lot of little things, like all throughout all the topics that we mentioned, like that goes a little deeper. So, you know, mental health obviously is a big one. But yeah, like there's pretty much endless variations of like all of those topics we mentioned. But we also kind of want to learn more, like with this podcast, you know. We want to hear people talk and like learn about their perspectives and where they're coming from. And so yeah, that's what's the most exciting for me, is I have so many things to talk about and share, but I mainly want to hear what everyone else has to say, you know. Like I'm not an expert on anything, and yeah, we're just looking to hear back from the community as well, and like what you guys want to hear us talk about. But yeah, we're just here to chill.
Yeah. Yeah, we're honestly just having fun with it. Like Sammy and I, we've been thinking of doing this podcast for a while. We usually, like, whenever we hang out, it'll pretty much just be at either his house or my house, and we'll lay on the sofa or sit on the sofa and watch TV and talk for hours on end. So we thought, man, we already do this. We have like some really great conversations. We talk about literally anything. The beauty of it is that we both have similar perspectives. So we're pretty much on the same page on most things that we talk about, but in very different ways. So we're very different people. Our upbringing's been similar enough to where, you know, we're like easily best friends just because we connect naturally, but different enough to the point where we definitely teach each other a lot of different things. And so we're kind of like on this same path, or we're kind of going towards the same location, but we're doing it in our own way.
Dude, right? Aren't we all?
So that's why we say once you focus on the similarities versus the differences, it just changes everything. It really, your mentality will will change and for the better, at least in my opinion, and from what we think. So one last thing too, since we want to hear from you guys, always feel free to post some questions in the chat, and we're also gonna try to do a segment where we add like either you call us up on our phone number, or you send us an email. And so if there's ever a topic that you really want us to talk about, go ahead and email us. We haven't made one yet, but for now, just put it up on the chat, and eventually we're like infants here with Twitch and with our recording studio. Like I would Twitch stream Rocket League every now and then, but I don't know anything else other than how to set it up so that we can make these videos. So we're gonna learn how to edit. We're gonna learn how to put in an email, right, so you guys can message us directly, so that we can go in depth on topics. Feel free to literally just anything, any experience you want to share. If you want advice on maybe something that we've gone through before, or something that you hear in one of our podcasts from someone we feature, go ahead and email us on that. And we're not going to tell you what to do, but we'll definitely say, here's one thing that we've seen, here's one way that we've experienced this, here's what happened to one of our friends, and we'll kind of like help you in that way. But that's a little disclaimer, that we're not going to tell you what to do. Life is yours to figure out on your own, and with the support that you have around you. And so we're just trying to help you that support, but it's not up to us to tell you what to do. I don't tell Sammy what to do, he doesn't tell me what to do, but we're always here for each other, in hopes to help grow and emotionally and mentally. So
amen.
There you go. So any last words, Sammy, for this podcast, this video that we just started?
No, just looking forward to having people on, talking about all the things I'm passionate about, and hearing what people are passionate about.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a great time. So excited.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing your questions and to enjoying this journey with you guys. So thanks for hopping on.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week when we post another video. Peace.